We all have mentors or coaches, people that give us advice that help us to know what to do and how to do things. When I was a teenager, probably 14 or 15 years old, I was going to high school, but then in the summers, I would work at my father's business. Was partners in a concrete business. They made concrete pipe and cement blocks, some precast things like septic tanks and those kinds of things. There was a cement salesman that came into that business. His name was Sam, and for some reason, Sam took an interest in me. I don't know why, but I was 14 or 15, and he was probably about 50. And he would, when he would come every week to sell cement to my father. And then when he was done talking to my dad, then he would come out in the plant and he would find me and he would take me to the break room and he'd buy me a Mountain Dew and he'd talk to me and um, and Sam also did some other things with me. He would take me to Hershey to the hockey games and to baseball games and I knew that he didn't have to do that to sell cement. I just knew that he liked me for some reason. Uh, and so we had an ongoing relationship, and I really admired Sam. I really had a lot of respect for him, and I knew that he liked me. And when you're 14 or 15, you're kind of unsure about yourself and don't have a lot of extra confidence. And so having an older man like that took an interest in me was just a real encouragement to me. Um, uh, Now, I probably was. A bit of I was probably the stereotypical boss's son that you would think of. Like I would, I thought I had a lot more power and influence than what I really did, not because of what I knew or my position or anything in the company. It was just because my father owns the company, and so people ought to listen to me. So one summer, I was driving a front end loader. I was putting stone and sand into the bins that would then come down inside the plant for the machines that were making the concrete products. And so it was my job to order the stone and the sand and keep a supply there, and then to load it up, and it would go up the conveyor belt up into the top of the plant and go into the bin and get it in the proper bin, and then I'd have to keep enough up there that all the machines could keep working and didn't run out of anything. And the front end loader I was driving that summer, it developed a problem with the steering, and it had power steering, but it didn't work. It wasn't working very well, and sometimes it would turn, and then all of a sudden it would spin around, and the steering wheel would spin around, and so I had talked to the mechanic in the shop. I had talked to the shop foreman, and there was a mechanic shop there, worked on the trucks and the tractors and equipment. There were probably three mechanics and a shop foreman. And so I talked to the shop foreman about getting the steering fixed on my front end loader, but it wasn't happening. He hadn't gotten it done, and I was frustrated with that, and that I had to drive this front end loader with the steering the way it was. And one day I was filling the bins and driving the front end loader, and I turned the steering wheel, and when I let go, it spun around and came back. And there was a knob on the steering wheel that could help you to turn the steering wheel. And that knob hit me on my elbow, right on my crazy bone. And well, you know how that feels. It just makes your whole arm tingle. And it was just, and it really made me angry. And I got off the front end loader and climbed down and went into the shop. And I found the shop foreman. And I told the shop foreman what I thought about him and his ability to schedule stuff in the shop. And I really told him what was what. And when I turned around to walk out of the shop, there, standing in the overhead doorway, was Sam, the cement salesman. Well, when I got to the door, Sam took me by the arm and he took me around the side of the building and he backed me up against the concrete wall and then he leaned over me and put his hands on the wall above me, and he leaned over me, and I can still remember his necktie hanging just right about at my eye level. And Sam told me that what he had just heard me do was wrong, and that if I was ever going to be the kind of person that he thought I was going to be, I was going to have to learn a lot about how to deal with people and how to handle problems and things that happen that are disappointing. And he said, what you did was wrong. And now what you're going to do is you're going to go back in the shop and you're going to find that shop foreman and you are going to apologize to him for what you just said. And you are going to tell him that you will be happy to drive that front end loader the way it is as long as you need to until he can schedule it into the shop. And if he ever schedules it into the shop and fixes it, you're going to say thank you. So, and he said, I'm going with you. So we turned around, we went into the shop. I found the shop foreman. I told him that I was sorry for what I had said. I should not have said that. And I would be happy to drive the front end loader with the steering the way it is as long as I need to, and until he can schedule it in to get it fixed. And if he ever schedules it in to get it fixed, I will say thank you. And then Sam took me to the break room, bought me a Mountain Dew. Our relationship went on just like before. Sam heard me say that, and he had hopes for the kind of person that I would be when I became an adult. But he didn't have to help me with that. He could have just turned around and walked away. I hadn't seen him. He could have walked away and said, well, I thought Merle was going to be a person who knew how to deal with people and problems, but I guess not. And he could have just let me go. But he cared enough about me to take me and walk me around the side of the building, back me up against the wall, and tell me what I had done was wrong and tell me how to fix it. And then he went with me while I fixed it and corrected what I had done. And then our relationship went on. If you find somebody in your life that cares enough about you to tell you when you've been wrong, don't reject them. We tend to react to people when they give us correction, when they give us advice. But if you find people who care enough about you to do that, listen to what they say because they can help you to be a better person and they can help you to learn how to do the things that you ought to do and be successful in life.